Hello and welcome back to another Built to Godzilla video where I'm reviewing more obscure monster movies, ones that people haven't heard of, or ones that are underrated. Today I'm looking at a movie that ties into the one I reviewed the other day, Yonggary. The reason why it ties into Yonggary is because it's somewhat of a remake of Yonggary, even though it's not a remake at all. It has nothing to do with it other than the fact that the monster in the movie is named Yonggary, and it's the movie Reptilian. Now, by the cover, it just looks like it's more of a Godzilla '98 ripoff, which it kind of is, but it also isn't because this movie's plot involves aliens. And notice how I said aliens, yes, aliens, and no, the original Yonggary did not feature aliens at all. In fact, this movie's plot is entirely different. Where the creature Yonggary comes from is entirely different. What Yonggary does in this movie is entirely different. In the original, Yonggary used to eat oil, which is really weird, and in kind of an environmental message. And in this one, he's just a monster that goes around destroying things. But he's under the mind control of the aliens, so there's that whole weird aspect. Now, when research is done with this movie, you'll realize that the original plot was actually supposed to be a remake of the original Yonggary. In fact, this isn't the original version of the film. The original version of the film was actually shown, I believe, and then they cut out, I think, 40% of the film and then replaced the storyline. Why they did that, I have no idea. I'd actually be interested in seeing the original film, and they also updated the special effects. And if you see the special effects in this movie, they're the worst special effects I've ever seen. They're like Asylum quality, and you can't blame it on the time because Jurassic Park came out before this, looked better. And even Godzilla '98 came out before this and looked better. And I'm talking about CGI here. I'm not talking about like guys in rubber suits because we'd be here all night if we're going to talk about that. So, and it's the most expensive Korean film ever made at the time, at least. I'm pretty sure there's been more expensive Korean films to come out in recent years. So there was really no excuse for the effects to look that bad. There's no excuse. And I honestly believe that the reason why the effects look so bad, the updated effects, I honestly believe they did that to cover up guys in rubber suits. Because you can see, while you're watching the film, that there are some shots of like rubber arms and stuff like that in the background. So I honestly believe they were just covering that up to use just CG effects, which look awful. There's not one CG effect in this movie that looks good. There's not one effect in this movie that looks good. When Yonggary is breathing his fire, the fire looks bad. When the military is flying around, when they're jetpacks, it looks bad. It just all around, it looks terrible. It's a terrible looking film. The acting is really bad. This movie is unbelievably awful. The first 12 minutes in, I'm just like, no, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. It is that bad. And this movie, on Amazon, it costs like 30 some bucks. I got off of eBay for like $2, maybe. And that was like, a really weird price difference because normally on eBay I'd find it more expensively sometimes, but whatever. And the reviews on the back, this has reviews on the back. You can't keep a good monster down. Maybe if they did the effects better. An exciting film with widespread appeal, even though no one's heard of this movie. And let's see what the plot says on the back, shall we? Because I guarantee it's not the plot of the actual movie. Prepare for sci-fi action like never before when a giant fire-breathing dinosaur buried for over 2 million years is resurrected and unleashed on the world. Okay, that is the plot of the movie, but it's just, they completely leave out the aliens, and even the alien creatures, they were like puppets, I think, and they didn't look great, but they looked better than Yonggary in this. And the Yonggary in this movie doesn't even look like the Yonggary in the original movie, so this has no reason to be called Yonggary because it has nothing to do with Yonggary. I'm not like some diehard Yonggary fan where I'm getting offended by it, but it's just kind of silly to think that the movie is claiming to be a remake of Yonggary, and this scene never happen in the movie. It never happens in the movie. And it's a very small scale for a giant monster movie. Like, I understand that most kaiju movies and giant monster movies, they don't leave a specific location, they kind of stay in one city. But this one stays very still, even within the city. it's like, wow, I don't know what went wrong here. Like, there's nothing in this movie that works. The acting is all bad. The camera work is kind of weird, and then the writing's terrible, and so's the effects. But you know what? The movie's entertaining. It really is. It's hysterically bad. It's a lot of fun in that case, and I enjoyed watching it. It's one of those movies where I want to show my friends. They're gonna hate it, I know that, but they'll probably have their minds explode that they see this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. What I mean by that is movies that were released theatrically, at least. I'm pretty sure this was released theatrically, because I think it was given even like a hardcore. Excuse me, I just woke up from a nap recently. So like, it's getting like a deep trailer, stuff like that, and like it's getting all these reviews. The whole movie is just a mess, and I think something like this where we had like a widespread release is kind of infuriating. But I wouldn't say it had a widespread release. I think it was had a limited theatrical release, and it was definitely released in theaters in Korea because, you know, it's their movie, and if they're going to make the most expensive South Korean movie ever made, then they might as well, you know, make it put into theaters, or else it'd be pointless. And I think the company it's even a Columbia TriStar movie. They did Godzilla. Why are they releasing this? They did the '98 Godzilla, then they released this movie. That's kind of insane. That actually hurts my head a little bit. I had to remember because I was pretty sure I saw that, and then on the side here, on the side here, it has this little like yellow sticker, but underneath that you can barely see like the Columbia TriStar, you know, logos. And if you read they have like a in this it has like character bios in the movie about like the characters in the movie, and you can look up on Yonggary, and it has some like little moments where like you kind of chuckle at it by what it says, and then it says he's like 500 feet tall, and you really don't feel that in this movie. In like Pacific Rim and like even in like the original Godzilla, you can feel how big the monster is, but in this, because the effects are so bad and like the camera speed is all wrong, and the angles are also all very wrong, you don't get the feeling that he's a 500-foot tall monster. You feel like he's like maybe like 100 feet tall, if that. You don't, like, it just doesn't feel like he's a 500-foot tall monster. And speaking of that, there's a lot of this movie where he's not in it for like I think 45 minutes. He doesn't show up. I mean, once he does show up, he just starts destroying everything, so it kind of makes up for it. But throughout all that, it's just bad dialogue and bad acting, which, I'm not gonna lie, was actually one of the more, I think that was the best part of the movie, was before he showed up. Because you just see how bad this movie is, and it's hysterical, and there's only one recognizable actor, and it's the guy who played the older Private Ryan in Saving Private Ryan. He's the only face I recognized, and he doesn't. I don't think he talked in much in Saving Private Ryan, so I'm not sure if he's actually a good actor or not. But in this movie, he was really, really bad, and like there's not one person who's better than someone else. Everyone in this movie is just terrible. There's no redeeming quality actors here. So what do I give this movie? I have to give it like a 1. I can't give it more than a 1. It's the worst movie I've ever seen. And it's a kaiju movie. I knew it was bad going in. I knew it was going to be terrible. I saw Cinemassacre's review for it. I already knew it was going to be bad. But I wasn't expecting it to be as bad as it was. Like, literally, there's no redeeming qualities to this movie. The characters are even barely likable. And when they are likable, it's just kind of like, wow. It's hard to like the characters. The acting's bad. The direction's terrible. The freaking effects, my lord, those effects hurt my head so much. This is one of those movies where I honestly think someone should like pull a George Lucas and update the effects, because they already updated the effects once, so might as well do it again, make it look better. Someone should do a project and do that, because I can't, Lord knows. That'd be cool to see if someone could do that. I mean, the Asylum should do it, because their effects are better than this piece of crap. But anyways, that's my review of Reptilian, or Yonggary 99. same thing on Yonggary 99 2001. I really don't care. But anyways, that's my review for it. Check it out. It is worth watching because it is hysterically bad. But don't pay the Amazon $35 asking price for it. You're better off just buying a bullet to put in your mouth. Anyways, that's my review. Take care.